Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Louise.
How are you doing
Here,
today?
I'm doing all right. I have a little bit of a scratch in my throat, so I've gotta jump on it and get some ginger tea, and
Yep.
hence why we're not recording neither or not recording video.
We're
So
recording
sorry,
video.
folks.
We're both a little hazy, but
Sorry,
tis the
YouTube people.
season.
Yes. Plus, it's a no makeup kind of day for me.
Me too. I enjoy these days of no makeup and no, we can just be under our blankets.
Gosh, we sound old.
We're doing the
Uh,
holiday cuddle or whatever that's called.
yes, we've both got our dogs next to us,
Yep.
Woody and Gracie.
Well, I'll tell you the good part about that is the reading under the blanket. Well, this book gets better and better.
Oh my gosh. It's this particular section really uh, affected me. I definitely had emotional reaction to it.
Yeah, I want to hear. Well, and we're just to remind people, we're reading The Mistress's Daughter by A.M. Holmes. We're in section 5. We're just kind of taking it section by section, so there's no official.
Yeah,
But
so we're right now we're starting today with her first meeting of Ellen, her birth mother, and it's really sad to look at how damaged Ellen is. She's stuck in time,
time
Um
warp. I don't,
but also AM, just her observational, she's so of our era. And just reminded me of, like she said, she looks like someone from another decade, a woman who believes in glamour, who listens to Burt Bacharach and Dinah Shore to cheer herself up. I suspect this is the way she must have dressed when she used to meet my father, probably also in hotels, but now she's 55 years old and a lot has been lost to time.
it just paints a picture of, I can picture her walking in exactly what that is.
Yes.
I mean, and like you said, in the last time they're meeting at the plaza at the oyster bar, which is another sort of fantasy thing, right?
Right. It's all Ellen's fantasy and of not, like both of her parents kind of project onto her without really seeing her for who she is, but more for who they think she should be, or I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like she's a little kid almost, like fulfilling these little meeting here, and this is, it's where tourists go, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of like where you take your daughter, for a little thing when she's 10 and in a little day or something. I don't know, it felt weird to me. It was like that would be such a weird place to meet your birth mother,
Very strange.
the whole thing.
And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then I just like how AM says, is this the difference between what one is born as and what one becomes? Hardware versus software, nature versus nurture. I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of a profound
She
statement.
she has a bunch of them. I mean, here she is when she's going in. I get this part just, and I know you do too. I recently saw my bio family, and there was a little poignant things. I was like, oh, that's how I feel. Like, kind of, you're this grown up person in our lives. We know how to dress. We're, successful in our realms. We feel confident most of the time, these kinds of things. And then you go and she's like, I would like to go as myself, not my best self or average self, but my worst self. In the end, I dress up, which made me
Mm-hmm.
laugh because
Yeah.
that's what I would have done. I am once again compelled to try to make a good impression. In some fantasy of my own, I want to see her. I want her to see how well I turned out, want her to be proud of me. But
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, she's turned out amazing. She's this, like, successful, famous author, but you still feel like, oh, I'm going to dress up. I need to.
Well, it's just so primitive, and that
Yeah.
is there's a few things she said. I mean, you kind of said this, but she says, invisibility is the thing I live in fear of. I implode, folding like an origami. I try to speak, but have no words. My response is primitive, before language, before cognition, the memory of the body.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I read it, but just you saying that's even more beautiful, actually.
And, and the whole meeting between the two of them is all about Ellen and,
Oh my God, I know.
just, it's so. She is stuck in the Burt Bacharach era, ordering the lobster, dipping it in butter.
Oh, I thought that was so weird. Like, here sits your daughter who I couldn't eat. You know what
Like
I
who
mean?
you have never, who you gave up, and obviously it traumatized you giving up your daughter.
Yeah. And you sit there eating lobster like why she and AM didn't
Like
order
this
any
is a
food.
like this is a, a regular, like you've this is your monthly outing together. It's almost like as if, yeah, it was very odd.
That
She's very
yeah.
disconnected and from reality,
That's actually when I
very
saw how
disconnected
sick
from reality.
yeah, that's when I saw I wouldn't say sick, but that's how when I saw how traumatized she was because it was so odd her behavior.
And obviously, AM has talked about it in the book prior to this, but that there was an indication, an implication of Ellen's sexual abuse by her own stepfather. So
Yeah.
she's and people that suffer that kind of abuse, often if they don't get help, then they're stuck in time
Yeah.
in that childlike, and that's what Ellen strikes me as, someone who's very, very childlike,
Yeah.
um as a defense mechanism. So it's really sad. And in fact, at one point she asked AM to adopt her,
Oh my God.
which is the
Okay.
most
Bizarre.
bizarre. But before we jump there was one
Yeah.
thing, that when AM gets back together with her friend who's waiting for her,
Mm-hmm.
she said, the friend says, "What would you have liked from her?" And AM says, "Literally, I would have liked it if she'd looked at me and asked, 'Is there anything you need? Anything I can do for you? Anything you want to tell me?'"
Mm-hmm. And then she says, did you make a plan to see her again? I like this part. No, I will never see her again. Somehow I know that.
Yeah.
Just like that's it. That it was so disheartening to her. I do like how she had a friend waiting. I would have done that. I
Yeah.
like I could picture you and I waiting for each other. How'd it go? What's going on? But I
If only
felt,
I'd known you when I
yeah.
met Tilda.
Oh, I know. I think about that. Wouldn't it have been so much better to like have someone to kind of come back and just
Yeah, I didn't, because I didn't have any. I had one adopted friend that was, I mean, that I had a few adopted friends, but anyway, yes,
I
that would
have
have
to
been
tell you
great.
that my few adopted friends I did have when I met my bio family the first time were the people who least wanted to talk about it. How's that? Like, I
I'm trying to
remember
think if that was my experience.
I had one in particular and we were very close. And now I'm looking at it's not like her fault or something. Look where we are now. I mean, look how long it's
Hmm.
taken me to talk about it. But she wasn't even really curious. It was that weird kind of scaring you type of thing. Like, oh, I wouldn't do that, you know.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's
I
interesting.
was just reflecting to see how it was, anyway, I don't remember, but yeah, so
Yeah.
then we jump into where then Ellen calls her on Valentine's Day. She's angry because AM
Yes.
didn't send her a Valentine. I mean, it's just
Yeah, like a child. Like who
like
sends
a
a
child.
Valentine? I don't even
And
send
then,
my husband a Valentine.
you don't, and she says, "You don't take good care of me. You should adopt me and take good care of you." Like, this is just,
Weird.
oh my God, poor AM having to go through that, without, and and nobody for her to talk to probably about it.
Yeah. Well, she even says, I don't know how to respond. You're scaring me is all I can manage, which
Yeah.
from a grown woman, you think that's pretty scary. For her to say you're scaring me, that's also taking AM back to the childhood. Like
Yes.
I have an unbalanced mother here that's making demands I can't handle. Yeah, it
That
was
is
really,
that is just, having an unbalanced mother is really the some of the worst damage you can do on a child.
yeah,
And in that sense, when she says, "You did the right thing giving me up."
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I don't, I don't.
the way she said it, the one I like how you know how we interviewed her, so we kind of know her voice now,
Mhm.
not just her reading. When she says, "You absolutely did the right,"
Right.
I could hear her saying it.
But here's the thing, is because I often think about this, about my own birth mother,
Yep.
who also was adopted, and forced to give me up. She didn't want to give me up. And I think about, that damage. If if she had been able to keep me, that damage would have been a lot less and things, I don't know what we don't know
We
would
don't
things
know.
have been better. Like had Ellen kept AM, would it have been a different scenario? Would she have been more healed? It's an unknown.
I had it's funny you bring this up, Sarah. Last night I had a very deep conversation with my husband after reading this, just about this. And I found out new information, not really new information, but more facts pieced together on my last visit with my bio family on my mom's side.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always known in the last, 20 years or so that my birth mother had me in the hospital at least 3 or 4 days with me in the
Right.
room, this kind of thing. And then I didn't really realize she had more support than I thought. You know what I mean? Offered, people offered to help her in her family to keep me. And she was working and she was very young. So it's not like she was making a lot of money or anything. But she chose to give me up. And it was the first time ever that it hit me where I was angry at her.
Yeah.
I was kind
Yeah.
of like, why? And then I read why, I've always known why from other people, but I read actually letters that she wrote about really why. And she had very unbalanced, teenage years. Mr. Father desperately wanted me to be raised in a healthy family with a father, which I ended up getting, this wonderful father in a very healthy family. But it still upset me in a different way than someone's making me
Well,
cry now. It was very
yeah.
much like, why didn't you, like, I was telling Bill last night, like, why wouldn't you want to keep me after you had me for 4 days? I can't imagine handing Jack
I,
over to anybody. I wouldn't even let the nurse take him,
yeah.
Granted,
Oh no,
I have some attachment issues, but
yeah, I do.
yeah,
I had, I couldn't even let Becker sleep in the bassinet the night of
no,
birth. He was in bed with me,
me too.
a
And
little bundle in bed.
yeah, and I know the times were different. Her pressures were different. What she wanted for her life and my life were different. So I'm, of course, not going back like blaming, but it is that sliding door sort of, who knows that what would have been better,
Yeah.
It is very,
It's interesting that, like the aspect, the, deeply spiritual aspect, I guess, where you were willingly given up and I was not willingly given up,
yes.
and then put into a family that had its own set of traumas,
I told him exactly this. I was like, and this is what happened to Sarah. And he was really listening different. Like, I didn't really realize that's what happened to Sarah and you. And like, and he's like pondering it because it really, reading this brought up all this stuff. And what I know about what your mom went through, I don't know.
yeah.
It's all very trauma for the baby. This is what I can tell
So
you.
trauma, and nobody in those days really considered the babies
No.
and the trauma, or the children, when my own parents got divorced, and like they didn't, that wasn't I'm not saying my mom didn't, I'm just saying they kind of thought, well, this is what's best.
It's the
And
era.
yeah.
It was very much like children, what did AM say when we interviewed her? It would have been weird if Mrs. So and so asked how you were feeling. Like nobody
Yes.
we asked children. We were just supposed to kind of disappear when the adults did their thing.
Yes. We weren't real people.
No.
We were just adornments, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, then it goes on. She I hope readers are reading along, because
Yes.
what really is, she was so right about never seeing Ellen again, because Ellen then died, and
Yeah.
all the feelings that came up with that were
Big.
big.
Yeah. We'll get into that because that's going to be the next thing. Oh, we have one thing we have to say, Sarah.
What?
She met Norman's wife.
Yes.
Norman's her birth father, and she met.
Yes, I want to. Let's talk about this
awesome.
whole thing next time, because the Norman situation is there's so much there too.
It's so rich. It's like every little conversation of that, I'm like, oh my God.
But the lot, like the weird kind of loss of Ellen, and not
yes. Yeah,
not
kind of like not she met her and then there was no, I mean, you don't always have closure in relationships, but there was no anything. I don't know. She didn't get anywhere with that. It was almost worse. I don't know how I'm trying to say it, but I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just sad. It made me sad, the whole thing.
This whole section made me really sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the, the pain and the Ellen just never really getting a life, I guess.
Yeah.
Just
And
she was like a ghost wandering around of somebody who just was damaged and victimized and by
yeah.
everybody, and then never really got to have any kind of fulfillment in her own life, an
No.
unexamined life, really. She
Yeah.
died with an unexamined life, and that part of it made me sad.
And me too. And when we're talking so much about adoption, I mean, it's Adoptee Awareness Month, right? It has been November.
No, it's not Adoptee
Oh, no,
Awareness
you're right.
Month. You know what it is?
I name it that.
It's the opposite of
It's the
Adoptee
opposite.
Awareness Month. It is National Adoption Month, where wanting adoptive parents to come get children. So no,
Right. What I'm saying
the
is
exact opposite.
in my
yes.
mind, I make it Adoptee Awareness Month,
Yes.
right? But that's the thing, is like the birth mother and the adoptee are the forgotten people.
Yes.
And this is where
100%.
these books are so important, so that if you are entering into this kind of thing, you really examine all the different layers,
Yes.
and it's, yeah, I just feel like this is, it's been a big voice even for me, like the things you and I know, this is still new feelings that come up for me while reading her book.
Well, it's just, it just keeps peeling back more and more layers and
Yeah, it does.
of the trauma.
Yeah, it really does. There's more to come, and we have a guest that kind of peels back a lot of layers, actually, too. Now that I think about it, ties in.
Yes, we do.
So
Get ready to, okay. We
we'll
will see you in a few minutes.
see you soon. Bye.
Bye.